very emotional about the
Oh,
subject.
no.
But let's look at whether you would attach some emotion to this one, because the media speculation now and also reports mainly call from a Norwegian investigative piece in a Norwegian newspaper that seemed to give us pointers that Ghana's power ministry may have entered into an agreement, indeed the government of Ghana, because it went through the process of approvals in Parliament, in which we had a transaction for the supply of energy through the AMERI energy power project, and it's to the sum of some 510 million US dollars. Now, reportedly, if you look at the content of what the investigative piece is saying, that the managers, the owners, the directors of AMERI could be traced to certain individuals who have been linked to fraud in Norway and countries around the world, some countries that have been named as well. Well, the concern, according to that very report, and also expressly noted out or expressed over the last 48 to about 72 hours, is the fact that perhaps as a country and the various institutions we have, we may not have undertaken comprehensive due diligence on going in for the AMERI energy power projects. What does it say? Is it an indictment on the various institutions and personalities who were very much instrumental in us initial in this whole project? And we know the project will come to fruition very soon, so it's a bit of a thorny issue. Ernest, I know you've been following the subject. It's a bit of more speculative on our part, but it's also because it's been reported. It's not everything that is reported in a newspaper that's said to be the truth, but particularly when it concerns something that is very dear to our heart, energy and the solutions we're finding to it, we should be worried.
Yeah, and I am even more emotional about these issues than, what we were talking about earlier on. Because driving here this morning, I saw a woman carrying goods on the side of the road. Young girls, young boys, hawking goods on the sides of the road. Most of these kids, if you speak with them, have been to school. They finished GSS, some have completed SSS and can't find jobs. So they've taken up to menial jobs. But you ask yourself, if this is what it was all about, then why even bother giving them an education? And looking at what people were going, I'm just observing the struggle people are going through. It just touched me that those who have been given the privilege to offer servitude to the disadvantaged, it's a big responsibility on them to care for little ones like this, not to use that position as an opportunity to enrich themselves and their families and their cohorts. This AMERI issue is not new. This issue came up somewhere around February. In fact, the president was the one who first introduced it in his State of the Nation's address, that they were coming up with an AMERI plant, blah, blah, blah. And I remember in March, ASEP had a press conference highlighting certain facts that the AMERI deal stunk. But then what did we do? The AMERI deal itself was signed in February. It went to Parliament in March. And when it went before Parliament, it did not follow due process. It was rushed through Parliament. In a matter of, I believe, 24 hours or something, it was passed. Because it came in on the merit of emergency, blah, 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 where people are suffering from doomsday, etc. But even when you pass a bill that way, you would then think, after passing that bill, Parliament would sit back, pull that document and say, you know what, let's go through this so that if there are any amendments that we need to make to this, we will make. But as usual, our Parliament, they lift their hands and they go. This deal speaks to so many things. It gets to a point. I ask myself, how do we vote parliamentarians in? They come and they tell you, I'll give you a road, I'll give you this, I'll give you development, which is none of his business. You're a lawmaker. These are the issues what parliamentarians should be voted for or against on. And till we get to that point where people are held responsible for their decisions and their contributions or the lack thereof to national development, we will be wasting our times. We have 275 people sitting in parliament whom we are spending a whole load of money on, and we keep getting bad deals from STX, from AMERI, and they are ridiculous. Look at this. It was a Norwegian who was minding his own business from a different angle who chanced upon this and then decided out of goodwill to alert our government that there is something wrong with this deal. What are the facts? We are being told that, oh, AMERI plant, and the other time I was here, we touched on the same thing with the power badge, because bet me, you will have the similar issue with the power badge as relating to cost. We were told that AMERI plant is a generation thing, and when it comes and it generates, we will just pay tariffs and go. But that is not true. It's a build, operate, transfer. So it's just like renting an equipment. In the US they have something to say rent to own. You rent an equipment for a period of time, after which time you by the end of that period you would have paid for the equipment in totality and to own it. Now, when you tell me because we would only be paying tariffs, we're not paying 510 million. You're being deceptive. You're taking us for granted, and you're thinking you see, I find that very insulting to the intelligence of the people of this country.
And you're making all these conclusions because of the added press publication or statement that has been issued by the energy minister to do the clarification.
No, I've not even seen that,
okay.
but they've been saying that, because in fact and I would want to commend Joy on your news file this Saturday. That program you did was very educative, and because on that program that was the government stance. Oh, all they are doing is generating electricity and you're paying tariffs, but built in that tariff is the cost which you have hiked. And today you were listening to people on TV.
Because the issues of cost of production, the cost of the equipment,
yes,
of installation and things like that. That is all being factored.
The pass-on effect, yes. So if I tell you that, you know what, a liter of water is 5 pesos, but the bottle is 10 cedis, and I'm telling you, oh, you know what, but I'm only selling water to you. So I'll give you a quarter of a liter at 5 cedis, 5 pesos. By the time you buy 4 or 5 quarters, you would have paid for the bottle, which is overpriced. So it's another way of taking the money from us. We are paying for it, and we are paying $510 million. So when you come in and you tell me we are not paying for it, it's either you think I never sat in a classroom, or you're playing jokes. You're playing.
We're not paying cash for it at the end of each financial year, or whether quarterly or as if we're offsetting, because it's build, own, operate, and transfer. I guess that is why the government's own communication will be coming out with such an analogy.
You are paying for it.
But the communication also says, Ernest, that it also includes, well, the installation and the facilities which government is also not paying for.
That is not true as well. The bill sent to Parliament, before Parliament, stated that government of Ghana, we are going to be responsible, which by extension is the VRE, is going to be responsible for maintenance, for the fueling the plants, for the accommodation of the staff. These are all auxiliaries. When you sign a contract for someone to come and operate, these are the auxiliaries. Even the land, the preparation of the land.
So would you say that the ministry may be wrong, or perhaps not giving us the right information when it says in one of the points in a statement that it must also be explained that the quoted price, as in the story, $220 million in the Norwegian story of an outright purchase of such similar turbines is exclusive of all other costs such as auxiliaries, balance of plant, civil work, substation, installation of equipment, cost of financing, operation and maintenance. It's all factored in the 510.
But you think of it. Let's even grant it to them. Are you telling me you're buying equipment, if the stated equipment is 220 million, and the auxiliary
Auxiliaries,
the auxiliaries,
balance of plant,
the auxiliary cost alone,
civil works,
the
substation installation of plant, cost of financing.
I mean, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, are you asking me?
Yeah. If I sold you a car, if I sold you a car, and I told you that, you know what, this car is $20,000, but the cost of operating this car is going to be $30,000, which, I mean, why would I even buy this car? You get what I'm saying? Meanwhile, so you see, and what is even more deceptive about this is that in what was presented before Parliament, we were going to be responsible for maintenance. So is maintenance not part of the auxiliary? Okay, if it isn't, fine, we're paying maintenance. Accommodation for the AMERI folks that will come in here, we are responsible for it. Isn't that supposed to be part of auxiliary? No, so we are going to pay for it. So are you telling me we're going to pay $510 million and still go back and pay all these things?
But according to the press statement, that's not the truth.
No, but the 510, he is stating that the 510 includes all of this to them. But we in Parliament, we told ourselves that besides what we're paying to them, these are our responsibilities. That it should not be built into the $510 million. And these things go a long way. Now, you see, where I get concerned, a few weeks ago, we got, is it Dr. Pachedam or the president's advisor, Mr. Batidam,
on anti-corruption.
On anti-corruption. He came out saying, oh, you know what, they want to give an award for anti-corruption, blah, blah, blah. These are the issues we want him to come out and take on. Because that is, you see, when these things smell, even if you government knows, oh, you know what, come out. Draw the Yoko's attention. Look, let's go through these things. Let's find out what is wrong here. Someone has at least done the work for you. Look, there are issues that even think more than this and this. The AMERI group they are talking about, you're dealing with a company whose offices were only open 4 months before signing a contract with you. Their website.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing
you can incorporate a company and start, once you satisfy all the regulatory requirements, you start operating tomorrow.
Yes, it is true. But then as a nation, when you're dealing with people, you also want to deal with people with history.
Track record.
With track record. So that when there is a problem, you know, or you know what, they have a reputation to uphold. This is not your mother's money you're going to use to buy something.
But in financial engineering, as well as in the world of business, once the members of the new entity, whether they have history or not, they have history, then you can continue.
That is fine. Yeah. That is fine.
Because it may be a new entity, but the members of that...
Here is a case that this, let's give them the merit, that, oh, they have the track record and everything. This journalist goes to their office and realizes that, look, even in the building, their sign is not even up on the building.
Even though that's the address.
Even that's the address they've provided. There is no sign there showing. When you go to any office building, you'd see, I mean, it gives you a listing of all the tenants. They are not even listed there. I mean, you see, these are some of the things. And then to add insult to injury.
It's not a requirement that you have.
It isn't a requirement. But you would think, I mean, there are certain things that point to the seriousness or lack thereof of a person you're dealing with.
Especially once they are involved in such a huge transaction.
And you see...
It means that they should take themselves serious for us to take them serious.
Thank you.
And so you're saying that those pointers are out.
The question I would want to ask, which office did our Minister of Energy or the Minister of Power go to have the meeting? To meet them. When you're doing business with someone, you go to their offices. I do business with people. I can come to your office, we have a fair 1, 2, 3 meetings, but when things gel up to a certain level, we just did a deal with some company in East Legon recently. We held 2 meetings in their offices, but when things got to a point where they had to sign things with us, they said they wanted to come to our offices because they wanted to make sure we were a solid company. And this is a private transaction.
That you were credible.
That we were credible. This was just a private transaction. You're getting it. How much more? Look at the quantum of money we're talking about here. 510 million of other people's money, not your own money.
Is it not possible that we could be perhaps criticizing our government indirectly or directly, just based on a mere journalistic work or report? that indeed is more speculative than being the
You
truth.
see, what this journalist put out, he's only put out something we have already voiced. I pointed it out to you that in March of this year, ASEP pointed this out, pointed some of these facts out. So these concerns were already there. And I'm already telling you that the car power badge sitting there has similar issues. Overpricing. Look, we had the same issue with the Ridge Hospital. Ridge Hospital, go to Exim Bank, US, their website. They gave us the initial loan, I think for $115 million. And when you go to their website, they had stated on there that they had given the government of Ghana $115 million for X number of beds, for this, for the Ridge Hospital. And they even went ahead to state how many jobs it will create in the US. So many jobs and blah, blah, blah. And then what the terms of the deal, that we would have to buy equipment from the US and hire people
as
from
conditionalities, yes.
As conditionalities. I turn around, I come to my own country, and they tell me, oh, the Ridge Hospital is 200 and something million. We have screamed, we have wailed, we have cried. But we are going to pay 200 and something million for the Ridge Hospital because we went back and took another loan of 100 and something from the French, for the same deal. Meanwhile, someone said he signed 115 with you to complete the thing. You see, and so if me, Mr. Batidam, is not concerned about things like this, or at least, you see, the president himself stood the other time and said, oh, the perception of corruption is only perception, it's only perception. You feed that perception when issues rise and you fail to address them. So let's take the Ridge Hospital deal. When it happened, you come out, put out the documents. Dr. Donko, when he put out his press statement this morning, did he put out the copies of the contract with AMERI? Sunshine is the best detergent for corruption. When you said, oh, you know what, this is not, what they're saying is not true. Here is the contract.
But it should be a public document. It should be before Parliament. If you want to, you can always get.
No, what you get before Parliament is part of it, aspects.
Part of the agreement.
I mean, it would be nice. Oh, Dr. Donko, you put the bill out there. Ridge Hospital, put the contract out there. Let's all then scrutinize it. The contract you signed with the Exim Bank and the contract you signed with the French. So for me, I mean, this thing just speaks volumes. And it is not enough for us to allow government to sweep it under the carpet. Because these are the very reasons why you and I, as of today, are being required to pay 60% more for electricity and about 70% more for water. So you are paying for someone's nokofio into something. And that is not fair. And you know, we are not thinking deep into this thing. When we talk of electricity, a lot of times people just think, oh, it's about turning on the light in your house. I said it the other time, electricity is a unit of production. It's a resource. Now, take a company like Coca-Cola, Fun Milk. They have two major components in their production: water, electricity. So if water goes up by 60%, you have automatically driven up the cost of his production by 60%. If electricity goes up by whatever percent, you've automatically driven up his cost by that number of percent. Now, let's take that and look at all other aspects of production in this country. The meat pie seller uses water. Meat pie, he uses water. The bread seller, baker, uses electricity and water. I mean, okay, the baker might not use electricity because maybe they will be using gas. But he's using water. The cost is going up. You see, so when we shouldn't just, you see, it's not just we are not talking for talking sake. And just one last bit. We have a school of thought out there. And my own fellow Accra and senior brother, Dr. Reku Brobi, has voiced that so many times. And I beg to disagree with him. We keep saying things like, if you think electricity is expensive, consider the cost of a candle.
But that's true.
You're comparing apples and oranges.
Why?
You know,
it's comparing vis-a-vis the costs in generating yourself and the costs in having this very mass generation.
You know the first computer that powered the first satellite was about the size of was the power of about a Pentium 486, and it was very, very, very expensive.
Very big.
Very big and expensive, and nations could not afford it. But what did they do? They built on efficiencies to make sure that the cost will come down so that production would improve. But when you have people sitting there thinking, the car manufacturer then, or the computer manufacturers, did not sit and say, if you think the car is expensive, consider a donkey. You're getting it? They saw the car as a utility, as a tool of production. So what did they do? They improved on efficiency. They improved on cost, because they knew if they improve on the cost and get production going, they create more jobs, they create industry, they empower businesses, etc., etc., etc. Those who say that if we think electricity is expensive, we should consider the candle. My question to them is that, what does electricity mean to them? If electricity is a means, is a unit of production, is a tool to produce for industrialization, then we should remember that efficient and cost-effective electricity is what you want.
It's true.
But if you just think of it,
at this stage, we're trying to make sure that based on the solutions and the technologies that we're adopting, which we're saying is at variance to what we were on initially or previously, we also have to have a rethink. And as far as the factors of production are concerned, based on what we're adopting now.
That is false too.
Yes.
That is false.
Oh, definitely would have to influence things like
in 2013 we were told,
etc.
in 2013 we were told that same thing.
But let me just read this for you. According to the statements from the Ministry of Power, they have issues with they want to address issues as far as the cost of the plant is concerned. The ministry wishes to state that the agreement with AMERI is a build, operate, own and transfer, and the agreement is not an outright purchase of generating plants. The government of Ghana has not made any payments to AMERI and will not be making any payments for the cost of the equipment. And per the agreement with AMERI, the government of Ghana through the VRA will only make payments for AMERI for power produced and supplied to the VRA just like any other IPP. And we're talking about any power producer. Also per the agreement, government was required to provide an LC, that's a letter of credit, for an amount of some $51 million. They've done that. And Ghana will, however, assume eventual ownership of the equipment after 5 years of production and sale of the power to the VRA. It must also be explained that, according to the statement, the quoted price of $220 million in the Norwegian story for outright purchase of similar turbines is exclusive of all other costs such as auxiliaries, balance of plants, civil work, substation, installation of equipment, cost of financing, operation, maintenance, etc. Under the agreement with AMERI Energy, the cost of all these auxiliary works is being borne by the company AMERI Energy. And from the foregoing conclusion, it is false to claim that the government of Ghana signed $510 million agreement for the plant when it should have been $220 million. On claims that the manufacturer of the plant, that's the GE, General Electric, could have been contacted directly to negotiate a direct purchase, the ministry wishes to state that an earlier offer from GE Consortium to the VRA for similar equipment on rental basis proved to be far more expensive and was therefore rejected by the VRA. They also raised the issue of, addressed the issue of due diligence on AMERI power plants in terms of the directors, etc. And the government of Ghana, according to a statement, has not entered into any agreement with, there's an individual who has been mentioned in the story, Umar Farouk Sahor. And the government of Ghana has stated that the agreement is with AMERI. We all know that. And the chairman of AMERI Energy is Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum, who signed the agreement for his firm. Umar Farouk, according to statements, is only a witness for the chairman of that very company. The Bank of Ghana, before establishing the standby LC, conducted its own due diligence on AMERI, and the American firm JP Morgan also independently was said to have conducted its own due diligence before confirming the standby LC for the project. The government of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Power and the Attorney General's Department, also conducted due diligence on AMERI Energy and reviewed strenuously the project agreement before submitting to Parliament. Now, Parliament, upon receipt of relevant documentation on the project and the agreement, also scrutinize and review the agreement before approving it at the committee level unanimously and later by the ministry. But that brings us to the point about what a summary of what the Norwegian story is. And I would want to read this for you, if because it's been summarized by Bright Simmons. And we know Bright Simmons is one of the partners for Imani Ghana. And he said, well, the cost of the plant, as far as he's concerned, have a number of issues. He says, what are the two main strands of the story? Ghana entered into the VOT, we know 10 years. These plans should have cost us 220, but the contract is therefore inflated by almost $300 million US, according to him. It appears AMERI cannot be traced at the addresses listed as their corporate office. AMERI acquired the turbines through another company, Metka, who in turn purchased it from GE. And none of them will speak to the quoted prices. The firm supplying the plant, AMERI, has its CEO, a man wanted for fraud, racketeering, and other criminal offenses by Interpol and the Norwegian police. He's wanted for setting up a fraud bank in Switzerland and defrauding people of up to the tune of some $20 million US. 12 years ago, he was convicted and jailed for criminal offense in Oslo, Norway. And so he raised key questions. That's Bright Simmons. Why didn't Ghana buy directly from GE? And I believe that the statement answered that whether we will be satisfied or not is another issue. Why was the turbine deal structured in such a way that it went from GE to Metka, from Metka to AMERI, and from AMERI to Ghana? Too many middlemen, according to Bright Simmons. What if any due diligence was conducted? As it turns out, it's been run by a wanted international criminal. Now, the process for the Hays, here is how the deal was pushed through. The government presented a deal to Parliament, suggesting that buying directly from GE will take 9 months at a cost of $411 US. In order not to cause delays, buying through AMERI will take, that's the argument he said government put up, 8 weeks at a slightly higher price of 510. Only the problem was that even the quoted $411 million US from GE was still nearly about $200 million US inflated. And though we bought through AMERI, the plan still took 8 months to arrive, and so not the 8 weeks. And so we paid extra more. Okay, so that's how it is. Is it wrong for any organization to have its directors involved in fraud? Perhaps people go to prison, they are rich people, they go to prison, come back, still come and continue their business.
I would have, I have issues with it, but so as not to miss how we are impacted by this. I would have wished we wouldn't even worry about the Umar Farouk's angle. In your reading, you mentioned something about Mekta. Do you know Mekta, when they took this deal, they announced, and it's in the Oslo report, that they announced that this deal that they have signed to provide 10 turbines to gas turbines to Ghana is worth $311 million. 311 million. That's what Mekta put out there. Now, too, there's also something quite misleading about what Dr. Donko put out there. He said that we're not paying for the equipment. And I will break this out in a way that we would all identify with. You know, a lot of taxi drivers now buy taxis from the people who buy them, and then something to own. You every day you make your sales, and then at the end of a period you pay for it.
Work and pay.
Work and pay. Work and pay is the same as the build, operate, transfer. The person secures the vehicle. He gives it to you to use over a certain period of time, by over which you will be making certain payments, and by the end of that period,
you would have paid for the cost of.
Would you tell me that the taxi driver who did work and pay, by the 2 years or 3 years that he finished doing the work and pay, he didn't pay for the vehicle? He paid for just fuel. He didn't pay. He paid for the vehicle. So what do you tell me that we didn't pay for? We are not buying the equipment. You see, we're not kids here. Excuse me. We've all been.
So the argument, it could have been better negotiated, or we shouldn't have even said at all.
That statement there is false and should be struck out outrightly, because it's insulting to our intelligence. When you tell me we're not paying for the equipment, I mean, and if that is the Minister of Powers,
so you're saying the people of Ghana or consumers of electricity will pay for it?
We are paying for the equipment.
Eventually.
You see, when you say we're not paying for the equipment, it's like the person is on Father Christmas, just coming to give you electricity for 5 years, and after which he says, take the machine. No. You are paying for the equipment because you see,
because your argument is all factored in the pricing.
It is factored in the pricing. So when you
to make sure you retrieve your cost of investment.
Cost of investment. So by telling me we're not paying for the investment, it could only mean one of two things. Either you're trying to hoodwink me into thinking that, oh, this 510 million should be no business of yours. We are not paying for it, or you yourself lack the basic understanding of what build operate transport means.
Okay.
And I want to I want to believe it.
Just cool down on this one. Now let's look at the last issue before we go, because our time is almost up. NDC executives are being reported to be suing Zaneto Rawlings. We know that 4 National Democratic Congress executives have sued the Clotte Colley parliamentary candidate, Dr. Zaneto. And the whole thing is that they argue that she is not a registered voter in Ghana. And the rate, a copy of which is in the possession of Joy FM or Major Online, quoted Article 94.1 of the 1992 Constitution, which says, subject to a provision of this article, a person shall not be qualified to be a member of Parliament unless he is a citizen of Ghana, has attained the age of 21 years, and is a registered voter. Okay, but she's not a candidate yet.
No, she is. I mean, she is the parliamentary candidate for the NDC.
No, but she's not a candidate as far as in the national constitution terms.
Yes, but the NDC's constitution itself also requires that a member should be a registered
before
voter.
You contest.
No, even to be a member of the party, you have to be a registered member of the party, of a registered voter.
You mean the criteria for you even contesting?
No, for criteria for to become a member. For most of the political parties, to become a member of the political, because remember, political parties are for votes. So if you're not registered, a registered voter,
you can't be a member.
Because when you become a member, well, I mean, what use are you to the?
No, are you saying that, for example, I think each year the voters register is open for limited registration, or however it is.
And when it does,
and next year we're going to have full registration.
Yeah, and that is why
it's going to be open. Okay,
and that is why.
Let me ask my question. Then you. So does it mean that, let's say, I know that the 4th year, when we're going to have the election year, is going to be open for a long period of time, but I become a member of one of the parties. Let's say your party, CPP. I think it's more neutral that way.
It's more progressive.
The first year of the term.
It's more progressive that way.
Yes, the first year of the term, I become a member.
But you're not.
But I am not a registered
voter.
Yeah. Let's say the 2nd year of the term, there's a limited registration.
And I go in and register.
I go in. But that first year, when I was a member, this opportunity comes. And I know the next year or the next registration period, I would become a registered voter. Does that preclude me from contesting?
Yeah, but it depends on how their constitution states it. Because if their constitution states that you should be a registered voter for that period, you should be. But this case is going nowhere.
You mean it's moot? It's dead on arrival.
You're talking about the daughter of the former president.
Oh.
Things can happen. How?
Are you sure?
All
right.
AMERI plant crash gone. Voters card is what we can't produce.
No, but you find on the morale of it, do you find something wrong with it?
No, I mean, they haven't.
Because they vetted her and
yes,
she went through.
She went through the vetting process.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the eye of the petitioners should not be towards Dr. Zaneto. It should go to the constituency executives who vetted.
Well, the party too has been sued, though. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ernest Afram. It's been great talking to you, and I've enjoyed your conversation. And
we'll take you on the registration to join in the CPP.
Okay, we'll see how that goes. CPP, eh?
CPP.
Okay, that's more neutral. That's okay. And, as far as we're concerned, we want you to get interactive on our social network page. Join us on TV, it's on Facebook, and also a WhatsApp number we have, 0568 100,000. And that'll be it for AM Talk. We'll be happy.